he didn't last very long in that job. Vikas says, how big a role does fitness play in cricket? Because Virat is so fit, would that give him 1 to 2 extra years? A lot of fans, including me, criticise players like Rohit Pant and a few others for their weight, which they put on, in the last few years, and they were not like that before. Is that a fair criticism or not? Because because we think that it definitely affects their batting at 1 or 2%. It's a really interesting question, this, because when you are tired, you make poorer decisions. And so if you look at the absolute best batters of all time, I don't think you'll find that many of them who are not uber fit. But in that sort of just that level below, there are actually a lot of batters who are there who are not fit. So is that what the difference is? You know, you look at Bradman, for instance, or Steve Smith, those sorts of players. They were incredibly fit. And I do think over a long period of time that helps. What I would say is that weight is not actually fitness. And I've talked to a lot of players over the years, fit players and unfit players, about this. And even the fit players will say, this guy does as much preparation and work in the gym as I do. He eats a perfectly respectable diet, but he can't get rid of this part of it. Aaron Finch is the perfect example of, Aaron Finch used to end up with I think most people would have said that Aaron Finch was a slightly unathletic body. But when you talk to the Vic boys about Aaron Finch, they would say that his body fat percentage, pinch tests, were actually pretty level, because he didn't have an inch of body fat on his legs, but he had a lot of body fat on his upper body. So is he fit or not fit? Right? So that's why, just looking at weight is not I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a very, very good predictor, but it doesn't always mean the most. And also, in particular, there are going to be particular roles in cricket. You're going to want bigger people, right? And we're already starting to see that, especially in T20 cricket and one-day cricket. You probably prefer someone who is more solid, who can hit more sixes because they're a bigger frame and they're stronger, than someone who is thin and can steal you twos in a T20 game. I think fitness, I remember talking to a bowler, former international bowler, who told me fitness didn't matter at all. As long as he could bowl, his 4 spells a day, he'd be fine. And I said, there's no way, if that's the way you're looking in, that you're not holding yourself back and you're not bowling at full speed all the time. Because otherwise you wouldn't be able to bowl your 4 spell because you weren't fit. You've just said that by your own, your own words. So I do think, if you think about it that way, it holds players back. However, James Harden has certainly, and Luka Doncic, I'm trying to think of a footballer who's not, we've seen footballers before, players in all sports. Sometimes tennis players are not as fit as other tennis players. You certainly see that in the women's game sometimes. A lot of these sports are still about how you read the game, your individual skills, your ability to repeat actions and all that sort of stuff. If you have all those better than someone else that's fit, but if you give me a player who is absolutely fit and is working on their game just as much as someone else who is not fit over a long period of time, I would think there would be a difference. Whether it's 1 or 2%, I can't tell you. And the thing about having extra years at the end of your career, Vickers, the problem with that stat is I would be sure if everyone was fit over a long period of time, you would get that. We're already starting to see that with, the tennis players and Tom Brady and Jimmy Anderson and these sorts of athletes coming through. However, if you get a knee injury when you're 31 and you do your anterior cruciate or you do your Achilles, you might never come back anyway. So it's not a safeguard. It just means if 50 players were all very fit and 50 players weren't fit, you would expect the 50 players who weren't fit to not last as long. It's little things like where weight can really wear you down is, ankles, knees, specifically, so, and once your knees go as a batter, your bat path can go with that. So there are actual issues that can come from being a little bit heavier, carrying more weight when you're running and fielding and everything.